Hi guys, welcome. Precious here again from Cricket Academy and a continuation from the last video. In this one, we'll be talking about essentials data types in JavaScript and particularly numbers. Remember previously we talked about strings and string method, so this is a good time to talk about numbers. JavaScript has only one type of number. Every other types of number data types will be covered under number, and it can be written with or without decimal points. But note that it is always a 64-bit floating point. So let's get on with it and create our document. So I'm going to clear out all I have here. Then create a new file called numbers. So apparently I have that already, but I will just delete that and do that again. So new file 006 numbers.html. I'm going to take out everything I have here so it's clear. Then name the document, the title to be numbers. So here we go again. So the first thing I want to do is let's create two variables so that would describe what numbers are. So let's say let x is equal to 76, okay, or 7. And let's create the next one. Let y is equal to 7.6. Let y, not 7. Now, if you look at this, the first one is a number with decimal, okay, with decimal. And the second one is also a number, sorry, without. The first one is without, and the second one is also a number with decimal point. So you see, there are both types of numbers, but the differentiating factor is the decimal point. The first one has no decimal point. The second one has a decimal point. So you can also deal with larger numbers, okay? So larger numbers like what? We could do exponentials. We can say let z is equal to maybe 1 to 3 exponential 6, okay? This is a very large number because when you do the exponent, it's going to come out with a lot of zeros. So I'll just put this here as exponent. So like we said already, JavaScript numbers are floating point numbers, and it is very important that you understand that you can get as long or as much precisions as you want. All right. Now, talking about precision, let's see something. Let's do something quickly. So I'll say let's add is equal to, I just want to do a simple math. So let me add these two. Let's say 0.2 plus 0.5. Okay. So naturally, this should give us what? 0.7. Let's console log this. So console.log, and is the variable we are logging. So we are logging add to the console. Let's see what we have in the browser. I want to show you something quickly. Inspect console. You can see we have our 0.7 right on our screen. So you see, JavaScript, when you have two numbers that are floating point, it gives you exactly that. Okay, what about if we go with, let's say, 0.1? This should be 0.3 if we are correct. But as you can see, there is a problem with the precision. It's supposed to be 0.3, but we have some other numbers at the back. So when you have these precision issues in JavaScript, it is better that you do something like this. So let's rewrite this one. So instead of going on and on and on like this, we can control precision by multiplying them by the decimal point. So that is by 10. So we can say 0.2 times 10. Okay. then still on still plus 0.1 times 10 all divided by 10. You don't need to understand what is happening here. I'm just trying to explain something to you, something about precision. So if I reload, you see I now have 0.3. But to be honest, in your programming journey, you may not need to do this, dealing with precision and all that. But if you ever run into this issue, just know that you have to, convert them to decimals and whatnot. So let's proceed quickly. Numbers are not, there's not much to do with numbers. So it's just pretty very, very straightforward stuff in JavaScript. The most important thing you need to know is that numbers can come in decimal and can come without decimal points and can come with decimal points, and you can also have longer numbers with that. All right. Now, the next thing I want you to understand is, so I could just comment everything here out. So something you need to know is that in JavaScript, something funny happens. And what is that funny thing? Let's do some simple maths. Don't worry, we'll get to operators. But before then, let me show you something. If I say, let's add, or let's arithmetic, that looks very long. Yeah, let's calculate. Let's calc, okay, is equal to, I will do it with times first. So 10 times 5 is going to give us 50, right? But for those that don't like maths, let's see what we have. That's 50 on the screen. Now, what if we wrap this up like a string? Okay, so let's do plus now. 10 plus 5, that will be 15. What if we wrap this up like a string? I wrap this up too. What do you think will happen? Guess, guess, guess. If I reload this now, you see we have 105, because in JavaScript, this plus is used to concatenate strings. It cannot add. It joins them together. Remember what we did with strings? It joins strings together. Now, what if I try to add a number to a string? Now, 10 is a number, 5 is a string. What happens? The same thing happens. So if you add a number to a string, JavaScript concatenates them together. It does not add them as plus. It combines them together. So you have to understand that you cannot do mathematical operations with string. You have to convert it to a number to proceed. If not, you will run into issues. Okay, you will run into issues. But this only have a problem with addition, because if we turn this to times, so number 10 times string 5, let's see what that gives us. It gives us 50. Why? Because JavaScript has turned this to an integer. But if it is plus, it will concatenate them, it will join them together. But if it is any other symbol, it will multiply them together. But naturally, nobody's going to do maths with number and string. So it's just important that you know this in case your code throws up an error in the future. But naturally, you're not supposed to do anything like this. Now, something else I want to introduce you to, because you always run into it. Let's also assume, so still on calculate, we can still use calculate for this. What if you want to do a mathematical expression with JavaScript and string still? So apple, apple is not a number at all. It's not a number. Before we had this 5, which is a string, but at least it can also be converted to a number. But JavaScript cannot convert this apple to a number. What do we get? We get what? Not a number. So not a number is a JavaScript reserved word that indicates that a number is not a legal number. Okay, so that means you cannot do this. You can't do a mathematical expression with something like apple. But what if we turn this to, let's say, a number string? So it's 5, but it's a string. It's a number, but it's a string. Let's see what JavaScript will do. You see? JavaScript has converted it. So you have to take note that if you are working with string, you can still work with the numbers if you're not doing addition. But if you have something like a, JavaScript cannot work with it. It's going to tell you that it is not a number. Okay, that is not a number. So on and on like that, you cannot, do a lot of mathematical expression with not a number. And even not a number itself will be seen as a what? As a string. Okay. So the next thing I want us to look at now from our slide is number methods. In JavaScript, we have some number methods, and let's look at them quickly. There is not a lot of them, or there are a lot of them, but we'll work with these ones for now. So number methods. So I would comment this out, and let's start with number methods. In number method, the first one is toString. So toString will return a number as a string. Okay, so how does that work? Let's work with 7. So we have 7 up there. So we can change that to a string. So we can say x dot to string. Okay, s dot to string, and let's see what this gives us. So naturally we're supposed to console log that. Okay, so we'll see that in action. X, oh sorry, that was wrong. It's not capital letter S, it's small letter x. So we can console log this directly. So let's just copy this out and console log this, and we reload it. We have 7 here. We have 7 here, but we can't tell what that is now. So there's a keyword called type of in JavaScript. So type of this x to string, and let's see what that gives us. As you can see, it says string, but if we say type of x only, so type of x, okay, you can see type of s gives us number, but when we use toString or x to string, it becomes an integer. So invariably we've been able to change this from we've been able to change this from integer to a string. That's the first number method. The next one is exponential. And how does exponential work? It's easy. So we have from toString, let me just bring this down and comment the one above. So to exponential does the same thing, what it says, exponential. So this will be 7 times 7 times 7. Let's see that. Oh, sorry, I'm still looking for type of. So I have to remove type of. Okay, good. So x to exponential is 3, and that is 7 points. That is just giving you the exponential value of x. So in case you want to maybe convert your number to something else, this is what you get in exponential. Then also we have to fixed. So let's assume y, is longer, something like this. I'll duplicate and comment this out. If we now say y, let's use y for this. Y to fixed. So y to fixed. If we reload, you can see it has fixed it to 8. That is, to fixed does what? It returns a string with the number written with a specific number of decimal. So you can also add some number. If we say to fix 2, you can see 7.67. So it fixed this from 7.66 to 7.67. Okay, so the next one we want to check out, let's see, is to precision. So to precision returns a string but also returns a number with a specified length. So if we change that from fixed to precision, let's say precision 3, what do we have? 7.67. So you see it's working almost the same way as the to fixed, or let's make it precision 4. So you see you have 4 numbers and 7.666. So it's bringing back the number for us, but it's still rounding them up. The next thing we need to check out here is converting variables to numbers. So how do we convert variables to numbers? We can do that in different ways. So a variable can be a string. So let's assume we have, let's name is equal to precious. Okay, let name is equal to precious, and we want to convert this to a string. Is this possible? I don't know. Let's see. So to do that, we say number name. So we are converting name to a string, and let's see if this can work for us. And as you can see, it says not a number. And why does it say not a number? Because precious is actually a proper string. What if we say age? So I say age, but I actually use a number for it, maybe 45. And I change this to age. You see, it is a string, but it's a number that has become a string. So we want to convert it to a number. Will this work? Yes, it works, because JavaScript has been able to change it from a string to a number. That is why it is good when you want to do mathematical expressions in JavaScript. It is very nice that you convert them first to number, because JavaScript may actually be seeing them as a string at that moment. And that's the same way it works with the pass hint method, which returns a whole number. So if we use pass hint on y, so pass int on y. Remember y is a decimal point number, 7.66. Let's use pass hint on it. Oh, sorry, I've made an error here. So pass int of y. Oh, small letter p, not capital letter. You see 7. So it returns the whole number, and pass float does the opposite. It returns a floating point number. So if I reload this, you see we have the complete floating point number for pass int and pass float. All right, so I'm going to leave that here and we'll proceed to the next, because these are the important ones you basically use in your programming journey. Then we also have some math method. Math method are methods that help you to do mathematical expressions in JavaScript, and let's look into them quickly. So looking into the math method, like we've shown already, the first one we add here is, so the JavaScript math object allows you to perform mathematical tasks on number, and we'll look at number to integer, round, floor, ceil, and trunk. So let's check them out quickly. I will comment what we have there opt, and let me just give this a title. I will say math object. We will still work with the variables we have up here. So let me move upward a bit. Now, to use the math object is pretty simple. Like the value of pi, we have math is an object, so you do it like this, math.pi. This is going to give us the value of pi. Okay. There's also something called Euler's number. So if we say math.e, that's Euler's number. And let's see what that gives us on the console. You can see pi is 3.1415 and Euler's number. So these are constants. So we call these constants because there are properties in JavaScript that have been created for you that you can use already. Okay, so let's run into our math object quickly. And the first one is number to integer. So I'm going to do everything once and for all. So I'll copy what we have here or type it out. So console.log, and the first one I want us to look at is, it should be small letter, console.log, and the first one is maths.round. And what are we rounding? Let's round y. So let's use y for everything here. The next one is seal. So instead of round, let's use seal. The next one is floor. In basic arithmetic in junior school, you would remember all this. Trunk. And let's see what we have on our console. If we reload, we're going to have 4 values. As you can see, the first one is round, so it has rounded variable y from 7.6 to 8. The same thing with seal. So what is seal? Seal rounds it up to the nearest integer, which is 8. After 7 is 8. While floor rounds it down to the nearest integer, 7. And trunk is new in JavaScript. So what does trunk does? Trunk just takes the value and returns an integer part. So it brings back the 7 that is here. That's what trunk does. Okay, so we have round, seal, floor, and trunk. The next one is power and square root. So let's do that quickly. So for power, it's pretty straightforward. So let's do something to the power of something. So let's assume we want to do 2 to the power of 8. So console log math.power. So what do you want to do? 2 to the power of, let's say, 4. And let's see what this returns. I've made an error again. So maths.power. Oh, sorry, double T. What's wrong with you, precious? So reload, and you see we have 16. This means 2 times 2 times 2 times 2. That's 16. The next one is square root. So square root is how you get the square root of a number. So the square root of 16 is 4. We would see what that shows us. Let's do everything together. The next one is absolute value, which you use ABS for. So to get absolute value, you use this mostly on negative number. Negative, it will turn it to positive. So absolute of 5.6 minus 5.6. Then what else do we have here? We have minimum and maximum, then round up. So let's work with these 3 first. If I reload the page now, you can see we have 2 to the power of 4, that is 16. We have the square root of 16, which is 4. And we have the absolute value of minus 5.6, which is 5.6. So let's console that out and let's proceed. The next thing we want to check is minimum and maximum. And how do we work with that? So it goes like this. So console.log, then also remember maths.min. Okay, so let's create some series of numbers. So I'll say 34, 67, 98, 23, 78, 90. Let's do the same thing. So max. So because we are doing minimum and maximum, let's see what comes out. If I reload this page, there's an error somewhere. I didn't put the M. So let's go back and reload. The minimum value is 23. The maximum value is 98. Let's check that. Minimum is 23. That is it. Maximum is 98, which is correct. Okay. I'm doing this once, but you can always repeat, on your own by just redoing it over and over again. The next one is math random. We would always use this a lot. So console.log when you want to get random number. So random. I can leave it like this and it will throw up random numbers for us continuously. If I reload, you see the first random number 0.5. I reload again 0.6. I reload 0.4. But most times, you want to get something better. So you can multiply this, we can say times 10, to get an integer. And if I reload, now we have an integer. So what if we want to get a single integer, a proper integer? Then we can enclose everything, remember, in our math.floor objects, then put this in again. So now we're supposed to get a whole number. So you can see 0, 4. So imagine you want to, get integers. So you see 0, 6, 4. So basically, guys, this is how it works, and it's pretty straightforward. All right, pretty straightforward. So I'll see you in the next video, because we've covered quite a lot here, and we've been able to talk about numbers. So we started with number itself, we talked about the number methods, and we went on to talk about, so we talked about number methods, then we talked about math methods, and we talked about everything here from rounding to random. So guys, I'll see you in the next video, but for now, Precious out.